All right, joining me today is a man who needs no introduction. Joining me today, coach to UFC champions, including the newly minted bantamweight champion of the world, Merab Dvalishvili. I, of course, am talking about Ray Longo. Ray, first of all, thank you so much for joining me.
Anytime, Dan. Anytime, buddy.
Awesome. So let's talk about this moment for Merab, because that's kind of the big news right now. You know, you're a guy who's been around Merab since he was doing the regional shows in Atlantic City and Lincoln, Rhode Island, and all those kinds of things. So tell me, what's it like to just, see that title wrapped around his waist and see him have that, emotional moment in the cage?
Oh man, that's really, like again, I know the guy before he even spoke English. And I'm saying his first couple of fights, we used to have to go in there with a Georgian translator. That's how bad it was. So I watched him go through a lot of adversity. He wasn't like he was always a hard worker, but he wasn't like when Weidman walked in and I saw him, I go, this kid's going to be something. Merab was good, but he had his ups and downs. And he always handled adversity very well. He's literally the definition of win or learn. Anytime he lost, he made the adjustments. He came back. So it was, maybe when he got on like that, his third win in a row, I started to say, oh, this kid, now he looks like he's good. And him and Aljo had a great groove together. They were, helping each other out and getting each other better. So I think that was when I started to say, wow, this kid's really, he's got a shot at doing it, man.
Well, and that's awesome to hear. Now, I'm curious too. You said in there he had some ups and downs, and obviously the losses. He took a couple of early losses, both in his UFC career and his early pro career. Yeah. Is that sort of what you mean by that, or were there also like training issues too, and hiccups there?
No. There was no. What I meant was the fights, but there was one time where I think he brought like an interpreter over, and he said he had to leave the gym because there was another gym pretty close by which had all Georgians in it. So it's just like it was more for the language thing. I can't really talk to anybody, and he left for maybe 3 months, and then he came back right away, and then he started speaking better English. And I think that was the way that went down. Yeah. But he definitely, at one point, he felt horrible. But he said, I just can't communicate with anybody. That's how crazy that's how far this guy's come. So when I see him even doing these videos, which he's making up himself, it's actually the whole thing is phenomenal. Yeah, I don't know if I'm more impressed by him winning the belt or him doing those videos.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Like he's kind of got a shtick about him right now, right? Like he's running over remote control cars with his truck and diving into the lake. Of course, we've got that video too, which will live in infamy forever. Like, to see a guy go from not speaking English to being like, a fan favorite in terms of social media. It's wild, right?
Superstar. No, literally like a superstar, phenomenal. There's one video he leaves out that we haven't seen, but he breaks his toe in the gym, like the bone is sticking out of his toe, and he's filming himself hopping into the emergency room. We haven't seen that one yet. You know what I mean? But he's a big camera guy. He loves the camera. He likes to video everything. And I think that's why even that thing with the stitches and taking out the stitches, if you don't know them, it's odd. But if you know them, it's completely normal,
I love that. I love that.
There was a guy that broke his nose, like shattered, like his nose was on the other side of his face. And Merab's videotaping the guy. That's who he is. He loves it.
I dig it. Well, we love it too. Now, I wanted to talk about the fight itself a little bit here too, because obviously there's some controversy going on about, those first minutes where Merab calls out the corner for shouting his name and giving him instruction, or, at least claiming that that's what was going on. They tried to clarify and say that, some of their instructions had his name in it, which is, of course, kind of dodgy as well. I wanted your take on it. What did you see there? How did you feel about it afterwards?
You got to remember. So that thing, I think the problem is that started with Aljo, and then he had a riff with Tim Welch. Remember, there's that interaction with OMalley, where he's saying, his weight class is for a reason, and Merab was saying he wanted to fight him in the street, and there is no weight classes, whatever. But so I think it was already built up, because I was a little surprised he let it get to him that bad, because look, it's shady for some reason, but everybody's yelling during the fight. And if he brings O'Malley into our corner, we're probably going to torture the guy indirectly. Might not be like that, but I really don't have a problem with it. So it's almost like, when you're in Little League and you go, no batter, no batter, no batter, no batter, I don't know, whatever. You got to be able to focus and get through that. I was a little surprised he went that crazy, but I think it just all built in to motivate him to do what he did at the end of the day.
Yeah, and obviously, the performance what speaks for itself. But I also wanted to ask you about, he kind of gave a little bit of that back with the showboating. He's laughing at grappling attempts. He's kissing Sean O'Malley. Like, what is it like? Do you have any inkling that he would be doing things like that in the cage?
I think he was zoned out, man. And he's look, you got to remember, he's has smacked guys on the ass before, right? Against the cage. The kissing thing was new, but I think that was humiliating. Imagine that you're being held in a position, the guy's kissing you, another guy, and you can't do anything about it. I think that's why O'Malley sprung up and he was, trying to hit him with 2 seconds left. So, but I guess at the end of the day, when you do that stuff in the corner, and I don't know what went on before the fight, it all comes back to you. Like, it's almost like karma, you know what I mean? So that's why I'd rather concentrate on the fight, not get caught up in some of that shit,
Absolutely. And in terms of the fight too, it seemed like, despite the fact that O'Malley took a round or a round and a half, depending on which judge's scorecard you're looking at, it seemed like Merab cruised the whole time. It seemed like he was in a spot where he never really felt threatened. It was not like he was wobbled ever, like he's been in some of his past fights. Like, did it surprise you how little he was threatened at any point in time? Because not that you necessarily didn't think he was going to win, but for him to cruise that much against the guy who's been on the top like O'Malley, was it surprising at all?
Oh, 100%. I really thought he'd have to take a little more than that. I thought, listen, 4 minutes into the fight, I turned to maybe John Wood. I said, he can't hurt him. Like, he did not look good to me at all. And I'm not saying he isn't good. I'm just saying he did not. He looked slow. He looked like he was pushing his punches to me. His kicks weren't like snappy. Like, if you see him on the pads, he's very crisp and he's quick. He's fast as hell. And, he's had some great sniper moments in there. But that night, he looked, I think Merab's movement, and he wasn't lunging at him, was what really, he couldn't really counter him. And it kind of took him out of his game. Merab's movement definitely has always been unorthodox, but this really took him out, I think, for sure, because he didn't look good, and if you go back and look at some of his knockouts, guys are just, with the exception of Aljo, and that's a whole nother story in itself. Aljo did not want to be there. He was forced to fight him. That there was almost, he took that fight under duress. And I say Aljo beats him 9 out of 10 times. You know what I mean? But so if you're not lunging at him, if you're not lunging at him or standing still, I guess that poses a problem to him. So he's going to have his hands full with some of these other lightweights that are coming up. I think, I'm not saying, I do like his style. I think he's good, but he might have got exposed a little bit, So we'll see what happens in the future. But yeah, surprised that Merab didn't take more punches. I'm saying, with the exception of the body shots, he didn't take anything.
No, not really much at all. And you mentioned the future there. I obviously want to talk about Merab's future too, because, there's all the talk about him fighting Umar. He himself has pointed out that maybe Figueiredo is a more, sort of worthy opponent. And I'm just curious from the game planning standpoint on your side. It seems like you've gone through extremes, right? You got Henry Cejudo for him last time, the super wrestler. You got Sean O'Malley for him the last time, the super striker. With guys that have like a little bit more nuance, who do a little bit of both a little bit better, is that more fun for you in terms of game planning? Does one of these two fighters interest you a little more?
Hold on 1 second. I just screwed something up. There you go. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
No, I look, first off, think of the experience Merab's getting. He's been in there with a gold medal, an Olympic wrestler. He's been in there with a super good striker. These are all, he's just getting better and better, just like naturally, So I think his point with the Umar thing is he had to win 9 fights in a row, like against Jose Aldo, Marlon Moraes, who was the last guy we just said? Peter Yan. Think about it. Think of the guys he went through to get there. So I think that's where he's coming. But he's going to end up fighting him, and I don't think he doesn't give a shit. He's never turned down a fight. He's not going to turn down a fight with Umar. So I think that'll be a great fight. And I think he just said that. I think him and Figueiredo had a little history, and I think that's where that was coming from. He was a champ in another division already, so you got to give him credit for that. And it's I think that's more of a exciting fight for Merab, is to get a future, a next champ from another division. Even though he's moving up, he's still doing good in that division. And that was it. Umar, that obviously they're trying to promote as quick as possible. Same thing they did with OMalley. You know what I mean? So the guys that they want to see progress, it's always like an easier path. I mean, even OMalley, his first title defense against Chito Vera, right? I mean, good guy, great guy, good fighter. But he wasn't the guy that should have been the first title defense. Like maybe Merab should fight Frankie Science so he gets one of his losses back. Maybe he wants to get a loss back. Like that was the rationale. I want to get the loss back. Maybe he should fight Ricky Simone, get that loss back. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. What are the rankings for? So I don't know. I don't even know if I'm making sense or I'm just rambling. But
I think you make perfect sense. Now, I did want to ask you too, because I'm going to ask you about when we're going to see him back in there. But I wanted to ask you about the bottom of the bantamweight division, because I know you got your eyes on all kinds of next challengers, Figueiredo, Umar. Yeah. But I also know you're a guy who keeps an eye on the division in general. Are there any young up and comers that you've got your eye on that are maybe one of the future contenders here for Merab?
Man, I have to think a little more about that. I'm bad with names. I think there are a couple of guys that I recently saw that look good, but they're pretty far away. So, I mean, right now it would be Umar and Figueiredo for sure. Going to be probably the first two guys. Maybe Corey Sandhagen, because you got to remember, you already beat Cejudo. We already beat Yan. Who's the top? Give me like the top 6.
All right, let me give you the. I got it right here. So the top 6, obviously, he's sitting at the very top. And according to the most recent update, Sean O'Malley, Umar Nurmagomedov, Piotr Yan, Corey Sandhagen, Davison Figueiredo, Cejudo, Vera, Song Yadong.
Yeah. So he's got 2 of those guys he already fought. So yeah, it looks like that's a pretty good progression right there. But somebody's going to have to, like O'Malley's going to have to take a couple of fights to get back into the title contention, and we'll see how that goes. And I think the Umar fight's a great fight for him. Based on how Corey did with the wrestling with him, I've seen Rob go with Dagestani good wrestlers. He's not going to have a problem with that. And for 5 rounds, he's going to push that pace as he always does, and it should be interesting.
Absolutely. And I usually like to end these things by talking about the future. So how soon do you expect him to be in there? I know I saw him doing wind sprints before he did an interview with DC recently. So it's not like he's out of shape, but
no, he doesn't. He's not going to stop. I mean, while I was driving to Atlantic City, he did text me. He's coming back. I think we're going to go out to dinner maybe Sunday night. Then he's going to Paris. I'm going to Paris for Frivola. Nice. So hopefully I'll get to hang with him a little bit over there. But then I think he's going to Portugal. I'm sure he wants to go back to Georgia. Mm-hmm. He's definitely not a guy that wants to wait a long time. But I could see like 4 months.
Awesome.
Let him get his victory laps in all over the world. And, we'll see what happens. But I'll know more when I talk to him this weekend.
Awesome. And, well, you enjoy your victory laps as well. And fans, once again, this has been Coach to UFC champions, including the newly minted bantamweight champ of the world, Merab Dvalishvili, the great Ray Longo. Ray, thanks so much for the time, man.
Thank you, man.